So when we say the system is rigged, sisters and brothers and family and friends, this is the example of what we mean. This headline right here: regulators stiffed low-income communities in the SVB bailout. So we're gonna go a little deeper in this. The government rescued Silicon Valley Bank's wealthy depositors, but they are cutting programs to neighborhoods, money and funding to neighborhoods. Not good. So this right here: when federal banking regulators bailed out Silicon Valley Bank's wealthy depositors and gave its new owner a $17 billion discount, it turns out they offered no such rescue to another group impacted by the bank's historic collapse: low-income communities to whom it had promised billions in lending. This reporting is coming from The Lever. Rebecca, thank you. The Lever is doing the daggone thing. Go ahead, David Sirota and Team Lever. Banking regulators said this week that these pledges ended with the failure of the bank, evaporating an expected source of affordable mortgage and small business loans in California. The move could leave thousands of planned Bay Area affordable housing units in jeopardy at a time when a quarter of area residents are struggling to find affordable basic necessities, and halted a $10 million program to increase home ownership in communities of color. Now thousands of planned Bay Area affordable housing units are now in jeopardy. The article goes further: federal regulators missed an opportunity to show the American public that they work in their best interest and not in the interest of the banks. And this is coming from Paulina Gonzalez, who is the executive director of the California Reinvestment Coalition. So again, just laying this out, sisters and brothers and family and friends, and I hope that you are following the dots. Are you following where this is going? That there's always a lot of money and resources to bail out the ultra wealthy, but there is none to bail out Big Mama and Big Papa in the hoods where they are misunderstood all over this country. These things are deliberate, all right? Let me just repeat this. Banking regulators said this week, all right? The banking regulators said this, Mayor, not somebody off the street. The banking regulator said this week that these pledges ended with the failure of the bank. But the banking regulators didn't say that the failure would happen and they wouldn't back up the billionaires in this. But when it comes to helping the hood people, it's all gone. It evaporated. So this is an example of a system failing the people deliberately. One more point: when banks want to merge, regulators are supposed to consider several factors, including whether the deal entails any benefit to the public and whether they pose risk to the stability of the financial system. But in practice, regulators typically perform only a perfunctory public interest analysis before rubber stamping the deal. From 2006 to 2017, the Federal Reserve did not reject a single one of the nearly 4,000 merger applications it received. Now, keep that up. Put the mayor up. Mayor, this is in fact part of the problem.
It is the problem, sis. It is the problem. Poor people being left out to drown. People, we know the housing crisis that exists in California where people cannot afford to pay for housing. Yet and still, we see super rich people getting a $17 million discount to merge super big and rich businesses. Is absolutely disgusting. How do we tell people, how do we continue to tell people that government is on their side when we see them being left out in this manner? Dodd-Frank being enacted should have protected people from this. It was the federal government that said these depositors and this bank was safe. Yet and still, we saw that it wasn't safe, and their habits and tactics were tacky, and it left poor people to drown, and people will be made more homeless. So we see this merger, this buyout that is upheld by the federal government, protecting rich people who don't need protection and leaving poor people to be homeless. So it is expanding poverty. This $17 billion bailout by these people, tax dollars are making more people homeless. It's disgusting. Sis, I don't know what to say in this matter, except for you can't call yourself a government of the people and by the people and for the people when you're only protecting the 1% and leaving people to die and starve without protection. Basic necessities in this manner. It's disgusting.
It is, man. That is the word, disgusting. And a point that you made about the whole notion that corporations only matter. I mean, this is the corporate states of America. I mean, it's clearer and clearer that they are doing the bidding. I mean, when you got the federal regulators, and I hope that our viewers understand what we are saying here. The federal government makes the rules. They control the rules. And so they are allowing this to happen. Now, government, and in this case, we're talking particularly about the federal government, is supposed to ensure that abuse does not happen in this way. And they're supposed to protect the public interest, and that is the interest of all of the public, not just the ultra wealthy public, but all of the public. And they are failing. You know, I want people to think about the federal government or any level of government, but we're focused on the federal government as the referee in a game. Pick your sport. The referee is supposed to watch the game. Am I right, man? And it's several referees on the court, on the field, several. It's not just one, because there are angles that one referee may see that the other referee doesn't see. Am I right? Am I tracking so far?
You've read it.
And the referee is supposed to make sure that it is a level playing field, period. That not one team has advantage over the other team in terms of the rules of the game. Now, some teams might have players that are a little more athletic or this or that, but in terms of just what the basic rules of the game are, the referee is supposed to make sure that it is played fairly. And if in fact a referee or group of referees sees a player doing something wrong that transgresses, that goes against the social contract or the rules, or in our case, a social contract, the referee would call the foul. Now, Mayor, am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think I love that analogy, and it's not just because I like sports. That is a perfect way for America to digest what's happening here. The regulators, who are also the referees as it pertains to how we handle our monies in this country, are not doing their job. They're turning a blind eye to the fouls of corporations at the expense of poor and working class people. You can't leave people homeless because rich people are being reckless. That is travel, that is foul. Matter of fact, that is a flagrant foul, and they should be ejected from the game of what we call life. This is not okay at all.
That part, Mayor, ejected from the game. In other words, in the case, the example that we're talking about, banks can't be too big to fail. Stop letting them merge. Stop, check the books. Don't do a perfunctory review, do a deep dive review. And if there's not community benefits in this, then damn it, you got to go. You're out the game. You're done. Goodbye. But you know why they can't do that? Because the owner donors are in control. That's why, because the referees are being paid off. That's why they can't do it. So we ain't gotta put up with this, man. We're gonna go a little further. Bank mergers are often painted as good, and we can see in this case, they're not good. Good for business and good for consumers, but that is rarely the case. Often, and this is coming from Director Paulina again, often we hear the rationale from regulators that a merged bank is a stronger bank. Silicon Valley Bank really calls that into question in real time. This just happened. So they need to create some different rules, and it is within the power of the federal government since they created the rules in the first place. Don't let these people pretend that they're helpless. And that's the thing that gets to me maybe the most about situations like this, is that they act like they're helpless as if the businesses created the rules, which in some cases they do, because the lobbyists go there and they lobby and they get to write the rules. However, how this is supposed to work is that the federal government writes the rules and then they regulate. and then they call the files, but that is not happening. I mean, there is one spot of good news in all of this, according to the article. President Joe Biden's administration has signaled, they need to do more than signal, but I'm gonna put it out here, signaled it may revisit the rules for reviewing bank mergers. Last year, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, one of the agencies involved in approving the deal, solicited comments on whether the approval framework should be updated to account for the risk of increasing consolidation in the banking sector. They need concrete, hardcore regulation needs to happen. I don't even know why they signaling, but I'm gonna put it out there because Rebecca put it in her story. So I just decided I will put it out there. But they need to do this, Mayor, post haste, without fail, and with no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. So most people think about legislation in this country thinking it needs to go through Congress, it needs to be ran through Congress. But when you're talking about an administration or agencies, the administration does not need Congress approval for new laws to govern those administrations. The FDIC can be handled immediately. So the fact that they may review something is disgusting and also lackluster. I'm not feeling the burn on this issue, not at all. I want to feel the burn in the terms of Bernie Sanders' progressive ideas and thinking as it pertains to what we are doing to protect poor and working class people against moneyed interests. The owner donors are showing their power when they can do this and show up this recklessly and still get bailed out to the tune of $17 billion. It's reckless.